Welcome. Thank you for being here for our ECE EDU Regional Joint Venture meeting. And we're very excited to host our employer panel this afternoon and learn more about high road training partnerships and employer and industry needs. So my name is Kathleen White. I am the Regional Joint Venture Coordinator for the BACCC, and I'm out of City College of San Francisco. And Monique is on this call, so I'll just shout out to Monique Pascal from City College of San Francisco, who's our apprenticeship coordinator. I'll introduce Peter, Simon, and Jennie Mollica, and they're from High Road Alliance, and they'll be starting off our workshop with an overview, and then I'll come back and I'll introduce our panel, and that's really the meat of this, is hearing from our 6 employers about their current challenges. Mm-hmm. So Peter and Jennie, would you like to take it away?
Go ahead, Jennie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennie Mollica. I'm with High Road Alliance. Peter and I have partnered to support the development and growth of equitable career pathways. And we're very happy to be here to share with you today a little bit of our understanding of some state funding opportunities and to support your effort to come together as a region. Peter.
And I'm Peter Simon, the other half of High Road Alliance. And we're really excited. We've been working with Kathleen and Monique, and I think this is your sector is one that has not been adequately represented in state funding going in the past. So we're really happy to support you in getting on that train. So here we are. We'll do what we can.
Do you want to just start into your spiel? That'd be great.
Sure. Let me hold on a second. I have to. There. Well, we have do you want to introduce the panelists first, Kathleen?
I think I might introduce them right before they speak, but let me come back to that. I know who they are, so I'll introduce them. Yeah.
Okay. And you were going to just go over today's objectives?
Yes. Please. So, or you can. We're basically number one, recording this session so it can be viewed again. We're going to provide an overview of some funding opportunities, industry-driven workforce development and apprenticeship projects. We want to really hear from our employer panel about what their current needs and challenges are. I'm sure they all have challenges. I know they all do. So we want to hear from them, what their unique challenges are. And we've chosen employers that represent different segments of our industry. So when I introduce them, you'll see what I mean. And we're also going to be looking at collaborative partnerships around pipeline development, especially apprenticeships, but generally pipelines that rely on employer input and employer needs. We will have time for questions at the end. And I think as a region, we're trying to, I would say I have a goal of being like the first region in California to have a collaboration around high road training, to grow more apprentices, to really try to take this pipeline shortage seriously throughout our region. So I guess that's an overall goal. So I'll come back and talk to you with the panel.
Okay. I think this is the next slide, isn't it?
I think there was a slide before this, Peter.
Okay, hold on.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. There.
Yeah. So I was going to jump in here. And this actually, Kathy is going to share a little bit more of the kind of context we wanted to set here. It's nothing new to this audience, though, is that this is just a critical time for our country to be thinking about how important the role of early education is. And, you know, we're seeing it in the news every day. We're talking about it at the federal policy and funding level. It seems like an opportune time to put forward what the workforce needs are and to propose some innovative solutions or some solutions that maybe haven't been put forward before at such a regional scale. We all know about the shortage of personnel, the need for training, It's an opportunity for us to come together and be a voice for that, not only for the need, but what some opportunities might be and some solutions. And I think that is what is maybe not as easy to come up with, and maybe not as often voiced as we're hearing about the needs and the critical role. So we're seeing it as an opportunity to come together to create these solutions. It's also an opportunity to think about this regionally. And Peter's going to share some thoughts on the next slide about some opportunities shaping up at the state level that are really supporting regional collaboration around workforce development and training, and supporting it financially, also supporting it with some models and some sort of ways of thinking about it and ways of coming together that could be an opportunity for us right now. Like Kathy said, we're seeing groups form, we're seeing regional collaboratives form around different sectors across the state, partly in response to these funding opportunities, but we haven't yet seen in California the early childhood sector come together to take advantage of some of these opportunities. So the title of this slide is "Why Have This Discussion Now?" It seems to be this convergence of both need, visibility, and opportunity.
Mhm.
So my job is to talk.
But can I just add, by opportunity,
sure.
we mean, all of you know probably on this call, there's a significant amount of money coming into early childhood specifically, and education. In this year, already in line to come into the California, and the potential for next year, especially from the federal government. So it's our windfall that we've been praying for, but it's coming at a time of great instability. So go on, Peter, sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going to admit someone else to the waiting room, from the waiting room.
I got it.
So, I mean, overall, as everyone's been saying thus far, right now, it's kind of like crisis and opportunity commingle in this moment. And what's happening in California is that there's a remarkable level of funding opportunities around workforce development. The first and foremost, perhaps on this call, is the high road training partnerships that started out 3 years ago as a pilot program funded by the State Workforce Development Board. We have a whole presentation we do about this, but in short, it's really about industry, and industry can mean employers, it can mean you, the educators, you, the providers, and also when there's labor unions involved, they're also considered industry, but it's really more the industry driven rather than the educational entity driven partnerships. And the focus is on supporting the partnerships to come up with innovative solutions to workforce problems. And I think that's exactly what you all are doing. And we've been saying to Kathleen ever since we started this conversation that you have all the ingredients, you have all the stuff on the counter to make the cake. You just have to mix it together, and you've got a high road training partnership. So this year, the governor has put $100 million into the HRTP fund, which is going to open up around January of this year. So this is a very timely conversation in terms of your group getting together to get an application in it. And it's really about the partnership, and you already have a very strong partnership. So we're very optimistic about you. And there also has been no funding of education, or particularly early childhood education, by the HRTP. There's been a lot of other industries, but nothing in your sector. So it's just there for the doing. Also, many of you have heard of the California Apprenticeship Initiative, also like doubled in size in the last year. You may or may not know that the governor has said he wants to have 400,000 more apprentices in California within 10 years, which is a highly ambitious goal. And the only way they're going to get there is by developing, scaffolded career training programs in a number of sectors that traditionally have not had apprenticeships. So again, you're in a very strong position to pursue that funding in that whole avenue of workforce development as well. And those of you who are familiar with community colleges will know that the state is really putting a tremendous amount of money. I'm an ex-CTE dean, so I'm very aware of this. They're putting $200 million a year into the 108 community colleges to increase their capacity to offer career technical education with a specific focus on serving priority underserved populations. So again, you guys are definitely in that realm. So all of these funding sources are things that are there for the doing, and we're also available to help you figure out how to access these funds. Okay, let me see if I can move this there. So again, one thing that's going on, which is also in your favor, is that the big push now in the state funding world is to prioritize regional approaches to workforce development. And we're talking to a regional joint venture right here. So you guys are in a very good position. And it really is about forming, which is the topic of today, coalitions of employers, educators, and community partners, of which you have many. That's how you have a strong hand in going for this funding. And again, the HRTP framework and commensurate funding really prioritizes collaborative problem solving. And beyond the HRTP, this model is actually being embraced by the entire state workforce development system. So you're in a very good position. That's the punchline here. Okay, that's enough on that. We're happy to talk more about that. Kathleen.
Okay, so we're going to launch right into our panel in a moment. I just want to, we have some folks here who are a little bit outside of the sector, but they lead other projects. I want to make sure they have a sector overview. And welcome to Kit O'Doherty. When you were talking about regional, I did invite her. Thank you for being here, Kit. If you want to say hi.
Yes, happy to be here, Kathleen. I'm sorry I was a few minutes late.
No worries.
Really apologize.
No worries. She brings in the regional lens. She's part of the leadership of the BACCC. And so I did send her an email and I said, no matter what Peter said or Jennie said about HRTP, what drove me was that if we do establish one in the San Francisco Bay Area, it would be the first in California. And I'm very competitive. So
we're doing it.
We've got all our ducks in a row. And to be the first, of course, San Francisco Bay region is going to do that. Of course.
Well, and it's so important, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Jennie and Peter, it's really nice to see both of you. And just, it's just so important. Like, I'm delighted to be here and hear about the great work you're all doing.
Thank you. Well, and our region represents we're so innovative. And so of course we'll be the first, but we also have deep problems and they're exacerbated by our high cost of living, as you all the employers are going to probably go into. So just a quick rundown. I have 5 minutes here. Our workforce was not initially declared essential workers at the onset of the pandemic. I think the whole world now knows that teachers and early childhood educators are essential. So we've made that leap. Our average workforce right now is at 40 years old for ECE, 43 for a K-12 teacher. 85% of our workforce starts at a community college in California. They begin their pathway at a community college. 54% of our teacher credential candidates have transcripts from a community college. Wow. So we impact the whole teacher sector here at the community college. Our sector is 83% female, those enrolled in our courses, 67% non-white, 78% economically disadvantaged. Only 6.7% of registered apprentices in California are women. So you add, we bring the women, we bring disproportionately impacted students, and our field will diversify the apprenticeship pipelines as well as all the workforce initiatives. we will bring them diversity. That's who's in our courses. Female majority workforce, 90% are female in ECE, 74% in K-12. And just when you add up the workers that we know about, and I'll tell you what one of the data issues are, we have more workers in our industry than tech workers. So why do they lead the way? We have more, but one of the problems is that we don't have good data. Family childcare providers, for instance, don't show up on data, SOC code or top code data. They're under small business. After school, I know Courtney and Aaliyah are on here. They can tell you all the things about after school workers that categorize them. So I think if we were to really shine a light on our workforce, we'd probably be double the tech industry in California. And we're most certainly part of the infrastructure. Our sector, as you all know, would benefit greatly from wage increases that are brought by pipeline programs and more of a unified employer voice. Our employers are all over the map. They're all struggling with the same things, but they're always not unified. And so we brought together some key employers today. You can go to the next slide. And we want to hear from you. And so I'm going to introduce our employers, and I'll be asking them questions. Not every employer is going to get every question, but thank you, employers, for being here. So I'll introduce them. You can just wave when I say your name. We have Sabrina Dong from Kaiming, and they're in San Francisco, state-funded program, a nonprofit, and they also have a substitute pool. So we want to hear about her challenges with hiring substitutes. We have Terry Kemper from Mountain View Wiseman School District. She's representing school district programs. She runs state-funded programs and will briefly talk to us also about transitional kindergarten and some of the anticipated needs and her needs in a school district program. We have Melissa from Bright Horizons, and she's with HR, a recruiter, and so she's hiring for 16 different programs throughout the region. And we have Courtney from Girls Inc., and she's representing after school out of Alameda County, and she hires after school workers, and she'll share her challenges. We have Pam Shaw with YMCA the East Bay, and she covers a multi-county area also, and is an apprenticeship partner already, but will also share her employer challenges. And then we have, Kidango, Jackie from Kidango. She's also with Human Resources, and they serve 3 counties in our region with childcare sites. So that's a brief overview. They're going to go into who they are in a bit. And I'm going to start with, what are your greatest hiring challenges currently? And I'd like to start with Terry, if you could just start. And I'll be putting you all on the spot. So I'm an equal opportunity spot putter. So Terry, if you could start off, what are your greatest hiring challenges?
Sure. I think like many folks who are trying to hire right now, there are just fewer candidates for positions that we post. And many of the candidates that we do get are unqualified or unprepared. They don't meet the educational requirements that we have. I apologize there. And then when that happens, it delays the hiring process. We have to keep reposting the position. And then we have children who are unserved because we don't have. So those are the big pieces. We also have people not showing up to interviews. So I just in general, and I think also the school district, where it's not just our ECE programs, we're definitely more impacted, I think, than the K through 12 world. But being in a school district, I know our district in general is having problems hiring teachers and aides in its other classrooms as well. So, and then of course, there are no subs. We get our substitutes from the same school district pool that the rest of the K through 8 in our district operates off of. And so that's a challenge in that we don't have enough staff in general, and then we don't have enough staff to cover when staff is out. It's been a bit of a struggle, more so than usual.
Thank you, Terry. Courtney, how about you representing after school? What are your greatest challenges?
I felt like I was hearing myself speak. So very, very similar. I think we did some research, and it's the ghosting for interviews. Like, people will respond and be very interested in and communicative, and then here comes the interview and it's a no-show. And so we have a lot of those experiences. I also think in our field of expanded learning, because of the livable wage that we're trying to strive for, but still unable to reach, I think folks are finding other jobs in retail and fast food that is just, it's easier, it's quicker to, go through the hiring process and have that opportunity. And so that's one of our greatest competitors in the East Bay right now. And I also think just the turnover, the number of vacancies. And so when we have a staff person, we're really excited. We bring in more young people, and then the turnover. And so we have to then fill that position for this vacancy because we've enrolled the students. And then now we're looking to fill that gap because it didn't work out, or it wasn't a fit for the person or the organization. So those are some of the things that rise to the top, in addition to everything that Terry said. I agree.
Okay. Sabrina, how about you? Answering this question, what are your greatest challenges right now?
Hello, everyone. I'm Sabrina with Ming. We are a Headstart program and also state funded and city funded program. So one of the, as you know, just like Courtney and Terry, I feel the same. It's basically lack of qualified candidates. That's what I found. It's really hard to fill the roles such as lead teacher and site manager kind of role, particularly difficult for us. I think it's also because the requirement is just really high expectation, high requirement, and lack of people that are qualified. So I think that's the biggest challenge that we have. I just feel like there's fewer and fewer people apply for the teaching positions.
Okay, thank you, Sabrina.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go to our next question with the next three people, and you can most certainly refer to your hiring challenges, because I'm asking you specifically, how did COVID impact your hiring? So let's start with Jackie for Kidango. How did COVID impact your hiring, Jackie?
I think this kind of correlates to the first questions. We've seen a decreased number of candidates who are applying for open positions. And not only that, the qualifications, we've seen that a lot of applicants are not meeting the requirements. For our teaching positions, we do require them to have a child development permit because of the application process itself. There are experiencing delays in getting their permit, so we're not able to onboard them. Onboarding process itself has also taken a toll. Before, it used to take us 2 weeks to onboard a candidate. Now it has taken us a month because of obviously the fingerprinting and the background check and such, so that the delay in the process have made applicants not pull through with the hiring itself. So that of course has impacted us a lot. It's just a really like a drastic change from prior COVID to now. It just has affected us a lot.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Pam, how has COVID impacted your hiring?
The only thing I can add to what Jackie said is we're now doing Zoom interviews, which is not necessarily a great way to get a sense of a person. Yeah. I mean, I think we're getting better and better at it, but two-dimensional versus seeing someone in person and getting a sense of how they interact, what they're wearing when they come to an interview, how they present themselves, it's a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
And I think before we used to do 1 or 2 interviews, and now we're, I'm not sure, maybe we should do another interview. But I want to emphasize the time delays that Jackie brought up. It's taking anywhere, it used to take a couple of days to get a live scan clearance, and now it's taking couple weeks, sometimes longer. The technology is not always hooked up with the system, so they don't always talk to each other as easily. To get a permit, you have to have a separate set of fingerprints done. So you have to have a separate live scan separate from licensing. By the time the Department of Justice clearance gets to licensing, so we can actually onboard the person, there may be issues in their background and those aren't getting cleared up quickly. If somebody needs an exemption, it's taking months and months and months. So we basically gave up on giving anybody exemptions, even if it's something that happened, 20 years ago in their lives, which is really sad for a lot of people, especially when we're trying to hire parents of kids in our programs.
Yeah,
I think that's about it, in addition to what Jackie said and what everybody else said for the first question.
great. Thank you, Pam. And to clarify for all of you on the call, just to verify, you can't put an employee with children unless they have a clear background check. So it is not only a delay to hiring, but it's all these delays are delays to adding more children to your program too. So Melissa.
Also, physical exam is another one because they have to have a physical exam signed off by a physician before they can get in. And that's been during COVID, that was really hard to get in. If somebody's really sick.
Yep. Good point, Pam. Thank you. Melissa, how has COVID impacted your hiring and your hiring challenges?
Yeah, pretty much I can echo what most people here are saying. It does take longer to get through licensing, background checks, all that kind of stuff. I support pretty much half of Northern California with my counterpoint. So I'm in San Mateo, San Francisco, Alameda, Santa Clara, and Marin County, as well as the Sacramento region. COVID, was an initial impact because it closed a lot of centers, unfortunately. So we did have some teachers that were on furlough, just because, if people are home, they don't necessarily need or have the capacity to have their children in a program like ours. And it's also been challenging because as we're returning and getting our centers reopened, if our staff have children, they might have to have their children home because of exclusion requirements, like if there was an exposure in their classroom. So we're trying to hire more subs to fill in those holes and allow our staff to stay home when they need to, for their own family. As a company, we are requiring the vaccine or weekly testing as an effort to try to, keep the kiddos safe since, they can't be vaccinated. That caused some pushback from some candidates. So that was an impact as well. And not all of our centers can offer weekly testing. Some of our client centers don't have that option. It's a requirement to be on campus. So it's just a requirement. So it's shuffling people around, moving staff around so that, we can accommodate their needs. And then in general, it's just slowed down everything. And there aren't enough qualified candidates with their units. For our teachers, we need the 12 ECE units or at least 6 and 6 enrolled. And so the community colleges are an excellent partnership for us. And we pay for those units, we'll pay for them to go to school, but not, you can't take on all assistant teachers in your room because then nobody can be left alone to go to lunch. So it's just been a challenge all around, honestly.
Yeah, and thank you, Melissa, this group of employers needs community college coursework. So we're a partnership. So I think that's when you're talking about qualifications, we're partners in that. Thank you, Melissa. And thank you for introducing the counties you serve. As I call on you next, just reinforce what counties you serve because we have different people from different colleges that may want to know where your programs are located. And that was Bright Horizons she serves lots of Northern California, all the counties she mentioned. So thank you. I'm going to go to the next question. And Terry, I'm going to ask you, introduce your county and then who trains and mentors the people once you hire them, especially if they're green or they're new, or how do you train and mentor? Did we lose Terry? Terry. Oh,
We're
there.
in, sorry about that, the dreaded mute button.
Don't worry.
We're in Santa Clara County. And as far as training and mentoring, it's kind of a joint effort. So I do the orientation and try to provide the big picture. And then we really do rely on peer collaboration and support. So utilizing our more experienced teachers and or instructional assistants to mentor and work with and partner with new staff to show them the day-to-day requirements of the job. So and that can be challenging. I think it can be really overwhelming for some people. So it's been, especially depending on what time of the year you join the program. If you join the program at the beginning of a school year, for us, we run on a school year calendar. It's a little easier because everybody's kind of, starting up at the same time. But if you're in the middle of the school year, you're kind of, thrown to the wolves a little bit and need to hit the ground running. So I think that's another challenge in the hiring piece, is that we do want to give folks new to the field an opportunity, but we also realize that there are greater risks of losing that person, or that person not being able to keep up, or that person becoming quickly disenchanted with the field because it's not easy. And so, we really do want to look for experienced folks. That's helpful.
Great. Thank you, Terry. And we're seeing a lot of info in the chat. It's always funny how your chat room is your 7th participant, but hadn't really thought of the impacts of vaccine mandates on this workforce. So as if we don't have enough instability and enough hiring challenges, it looks like, based on our chat input, that folks who are not vaccinated may be leaving the field too. So we've got, another round of challenges. So thank you, Terry. And Sabrina, can we hear a little bit about your training and mentoring? And maybe you could talk about your subpool, because those are really entry-level people.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Hello again. First of all, I'm from San Francisco, and all the Kaiming locations are in San Francisco. And so about the subpool, so we, as a Headstart program, we also see the challenge many years ago. So about 3 years ago, we started this program. We want to address the shortage of teacher. At the same time, how do we work collaboratively with other agencies in San Francisco to form a shared service model? So the idea is basically we hire people with entry, like minimum units into a subpool, and we share this subpool with other early childhood education programs in the city. So currently we are working with about 20 agencies outside Kaiming, other agencies across San Francisco, and we're sharing about 60 plus sub teachers in the pool. And we have basically a platform to match them, help with the booking and scheduling process. We have a mobile app for the sub teacher to use. So that's a model that we've been building, and I think it has been successful. And our teachers have released time for their PD, for their vacation and sick time. So I think that really helped us a lot. And also it creates a pipeline. When we need a permanent teacher, we know exactly, who is the best fit and who's ready, who may need 1 more year or 6 months. Then, so I think it's a potential inventory for our permanent positions. So yeah, I can go into
that's
a lot of detail, but probably not a good time to go too deep. But I think that's something we did. I think maybe other program can, I'm happy to share more if any of you are interested. Yeah.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Mm-hmm.
So you're creating your own training and mentoring program also, yes, with just the subpool. Yeah,
yes,
that's great.
So yeah, we have internal coach and trainer to provide training for those sub teachers. Mm-hmm. Same thing for our Headstart employees. When a person is onboarded, we have early learning coaches, and we have site manager and service area manager, because we provide wraparound service, not just childcare. We also have family service, other mental health disability and other things that go into the family. So that's something we do, and it's really when a person is onboarded, there's not just one person, there's a group of people trying to support the new hire. Yeah, so the onboarding plan is really complex. I'm sure you all do that as well. You know, it's not easy to onboard new teacher.
Great. Thank you, Sabrina. As a former teacher of many of your substitutes, I know you have a lot of them. So, and a lot of them got permanent jobs.
Yes.
So I'm going to pivot a little bit and make sure you mention your counties that you serve. And I'm going to ask Jackie about how do community college, early childhood and education programs and classes support your workforce? How do we help you? And if you can comment on that, Jackie.
Yeah, so sorry, I forgot to introduce myself earlier. I am Jacqueline with Kidango. We're a nonprofit organization in the Bay Area. We provide services to children and families in Alameda County, Santa Clara County, Contra Costa County. We have both Head Start as well as non-Head Start programs. So we have over 60 centers throughout the Bay Area. How does the ECE program support Kidango? So a bulk of our staff members are teachers. I would say 80% of our organizations are made out of teachers. And that includes the regional directors, center directors, lead teachers, associate teachers, and all required ECE units. So I think that, you know, they're the one that serves our organizations. Without the teachers, without the center directors, we wouldn't be able to run the organizations. And like I mentioned earlier, it is a requirement for our teachers to have a permit. So you can't get a permit without, you know, going to college, taking the required courses. So we really, really need all our students, ECE students, to apply and complete the courses as well.
Good, thank you. Thank you very much. Pam, could you answer that question? How do community college programs and classes support the YMCA workforce?
Thank you. So we have an early educator apprentice program that we've been operating for the last 6 years. We started on our own with Head Start training dollars, and then we moved into a CAI grant. So for those of you who, I guess Peter was talking about that earlier, that was a great way to kickstart our apprenticeship program. And it was a lot more money over a lot less time 5 years ago when we got it, or 4 years ago when we got it. But in terms of partnering with the community college, I see Lisa Cook from Berkeley City and Jen Briffa from Merritt is here, and they are some of our partner colleges that we work with in Alameda and Contra Costa. We also have centers in Yolo and Sacramento outside this area, but we have about 25 centers, mostly in Alameda and Contra Costa counties. And we work primarily with those two colleges and a couple of four-year colleges. We offer our staff opportunities to get their AA and BA degrees. Courses are offered on site. Now they're mostly virtual, but we've been building up this partnership over the last few years so that people come in and get their initial 12 units through our apprenticeship program, but almost all of them are hired and then stay with the program and continue on for their AA. And now we've got a cohort that's continued on. And the first group has finished their BAs last year, and we've got a cohort of 14 now in a BA program with Cal State East Bay this year. So it's pretty amazing, the work and the partnerships that we do. It's hard sometimes to like hammer out some of the details of the classes. We think Lisa's figured out how to bill for apprenticeship classes so it doesn't cost us anymore. We don't have to do contract ed, which was a big part of our budget. Our apprenticeship is mostly grant driven now. So these are some things that we're looking to see if workforce dollars will sustain these apprenticeships and we can formalize the partnerships. We're going into a new MOU this coming year to kind of identify those things specifically to the apprenticeship agreement and the community college. And I think that will really help us be clear. But part of the thing about working with the partner colleges, we have staff embedded in the classes, and we have embedded tutors in the college classes. So we meet with the instructors at the beginning of the semester, talk about, you know, who's in your class. Nobody can fail. This is a different kind of a program. You can't just fail someone if they don't show up. You have to let us know if they're failing, because we really need to pass all these people. We need these bodies, we need these people, we need this work to work, and we need to be successful. And the people that we're training are invested in doing this kind of work, and we're invested in supporting them. And that's part of the program. It's a no-fail approach. And it is different for colleges to participate in this kind of a program, and they have to be willing to do that kind of work and not just ignore it. And, you know, some of the general ed faculty have had some issues with it, but after they teach the classes, there has been no problems with any of the instructors. They're all for it. And having the administration support in the community college has been critical to the success of this program. Yeah, every day it's a different thing, and it's becoming clearer and clearer how it has to be done well. So, yeah.
Thank you, Pam. And I think you have some of your administrators that you work with on this Zoom. So at Berkeley, I saw some folks enter. You made a good point also about not only the importance of the community college classes, but it's not just the sector courses, it's the general ed. To move up in our employment ladder in this field, you need some general ed, and you may need an AA, and you may need to transfer. So it's the whole gamut of sector courses, English, math, science. So good point. Thank you, Pam. And Pam, what counties do you cover?
Alameda and Contra Costa, and then we have centers in Yolo and Sacramento.
Okay, and we don't care about Yolo and Sacramento.
Yeah, I figured.
Great, thanks, Pam. Melissa, same question for you. How do community college programs support your workforce and when you're hiring the incoming workforce?
They're a great partnership for us. Just building those relationships, like Pam's like program she mentioned, like I'm very envious of that. Like that's a really excellent sounding program, honestly. For us, it's, you know, partnering with the colleges, trying to be part of the conversation, you know, so that when their students are, you know, getting their units, they're looking at us as a potential option for an employer. It's bringing in associate level teachers and, you know, getting them enrolled in their units and making sure that they're doing what they need to do and keeping up with their coursework so that they get their requirements. So eventually they can move on to be like a qualified teacher. And it does help, I feel like, a little bit with retention. I know that's a later question, but it does help a lot of people to think like, this is my job, and yeah, I'm starting at this level, and maybe it's not super great pay wise, but, you know, I'm learning, I'm taking courses, and there's going to be the option for promotion in the future. And then if I work for, you know, a little bit of time, maybe even a lead teacher. So I think it really is an important part of just our organization in general, is helping people get that education, because some of our, you know, candidates might not have that option outside of our ability to help them get their degree. That might not be something that they can financially do. So, you know, it's important for us for, you know, their personal development, but also just for our staff development.
Great, thank you. And I know some of you also, maybe in our next couple of questions you can weave in, some of you do provide support for college attendance. You might provide tuition support or other things. So feel free to mention that. Courtney, same question for you. How do community college programs and classes support the after-school workforce?
Yeah, and so I think it's a little bit different for after-school programs, but I think a component is that they're getting additional support and knowledge and learnings while they're doing the work. And with after-school programs, our schedules are a little more flexible because it's limited time in the after school program, around 3 to 6 usually. And so they do have the daytime to attend classes, to get homework done. We do have flexibility when there are finals. And I think for us, we definitely consider their community college classes in place of like on the job experience, because it really demonstrates their buy-in and excitement and interest in the field. And so that's definitely a plus for us. And there are some things that, you know, some trainings and logistics and developmental stages that we don't address or support or train on. And I think the community college classes really supplement the things that we're not able to train on, whether because we don't have the time, because other in the moment, bigger issues are happening. And so knowing that they're still getting the learnings and training and support in other areas is really supportive of our work in after school.
Great, thank you. And for the audience, after school has some different job requirements than early childhood. The classes aren't as specific, much more general. So I think that's why you're hearing kind of a different focus for that group, but it's a large workforce. So thank you, Courtney. Terry, what on-the-job training do you provide? And especially for those who want to move up, how do you help them move up? And I'm going to also put you on the spot around TK. Because I'm sure some of your staff think that they're going to move into TK. So how do you manage all this?
So as far as TK goes, I think I've been pretty fortunate. I don't, you know, I haven't, every year I meet with my staff and we talk about their professional goals. We do set professional goals with them and talk about how I can support them or how our program can support them in meeting those professional goals. And we haven't had anyone talk about moving to TK. So I think we might be one of the lucky few who's okay in that arena. And I think in our school district, in the positions that they're in, they wouldn't be able to easily just move based on, for example, our teachers, even though we do tend toward our teachers have bachelor's degrees and whatnot, the whole credential process and all of that additional education, I think people find that daunting, even though there would be a greater financial reward for them in that. But I think in general, the TK, the folks in our district who are planning for TK are worried about where they're going to find qualified folks and sufficient number of staff to meet those ratios. Mm-hmm. In terms of on-the-job training, we provide everything that's needed. We have a lot of, we have PD days built into our calendar. We try to mirror the school district calendar. So we have at least, I believe it's about 5 or 6 professional development days throughout the school year. We bring in trainers. I provide trainings. We, this year, have used some self-guided online trainings that result in a certificate. We really utilize SECO through the state. We really utilize the workforce training registry to encourage folks to pursue any areas of specialty that they might have interest in. And then on the job, we again utilize peers to support with any of the day-to-day things that folks need. But I think that setting those professional goals is really helpful for me, because then I can help tailor any offerings that we have toward the group as a whole, and to what any individual might be pursuing. I can send resources their way.
Great, thank you, Terry. And I know you're not an expert on this, but if you can just give me a quick pulse, give the group a quick pulse, because you're a school district program. Are we correct in assuming that your school district is also dealing with staff shortages and substitute shortages?
Huge staff shortages. My understanding is the teacher positions that they've posted, they've only had a couple candidates apply. in terms of subs, they have been recruiting or attempting to recruit like crazy. They're announcing it at our parent community meetings, trying to encourage parents who in the community who might be sub eligible. So these would be parents with, because we're district affiliated, they have to have the bachelor's degree and they have to have the CBEST. So that makes it a little more challenging. You know, yeah, it's a shortage throughout. And, you know, it just so happens my husband is a teacher at a different school district and they are short on subs. So it is I think it's a statewide issue, probably a nationwide issue, but yeah, it's pretty dire, I think.
Yeah, we've heard stories of people calling in the office secretary to sub at schools. Yeah. Thank you, Terry. Thank your husband. We put you on the spot and he helped you. On the job training, can we hear from Jackie about your on the job training? Is your larger program?
Yeah, so for Kidango, because we're such a large organization, there's a lot of room for growth for our employees where they're able to apply to different centers if there are any openings. So they could start off as an associate teacher, and if a lead teacher position opens up at a different centers, they're able to do that. And we also provide our staff with tuition reimbursement. I believe the amount is $6,000 per year per employees, whether you're on call, part-time employee. We prioritize our teachers because, you know, they do have to, you know, take the courses, pay for courses maybe out of pocket, permit application fees. So we do prioritize our teachers. And then Wednesday, I know, are allocated for trainings for our teachers. So they do get off of work earlier than usual so that they're able to, you know, spend half of their days with the children and then half trainings. And I also believe that they are doing seeds, a lot of online training courses that are available to our teachers. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Thank you. And how many programs do you have?
Centers?
Yeah.
We have over 60 centers. Prior to the pandemic, we did acquire a few more. A lot were Head Start. So we're now at little over 60 centers.
Okay, great. So you're a little busy.
Lots of openings, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I want you to think about this question for a bit as we move down. We're getting down the list here, but if you know or you're able in the course of answering a question, give us a sense of how many people you hire in a year. That would be, because I know from some of you it's many. So that would mean, you know, it's a whole class of people at a community college, or just give us a sense if you happen to know that with your next answers. Courtney, can you talk a little bit about on-the-job training?
Yeah, one thing that our organization has been able to prioritize is additional hours for our staff to ensure that they're getting training and ongoing support every week. And so we have webinars that staff are able to watch in the onset of their training to give them foundational information before going into the classroom. And then we also have training every Friday that is content specific for our instructors. We also have their supervisors who are coaching in the classroom. We also have a special projects team whose focus is coaching and creating coaching plans with our staff to be able to be in the classroom with them, prep with them, and giving them ongoing feedback and affirmations about what they're doing well and what their strengths are as well. And then we also have other opportunities. We have one-on-one supervision with staff. We also have a consultation model where we have clinicians who work with each of the teams to support the trauma-informed care approach in our programming, because majority of our programs, we're in Alameda County, but majority of our school-based programs are in Oakland. And so making sure that our communities that have the highest trauma index, our staff are supported with the trauma-informed care, and also have the time to get that support from a clinician around what supports and approaches to take with our young people. And so those are some of the on-the-job training approaches that we've been able to provide with our staff. And because of how the ratio works for after school programs, they are 1 to 20 in the classroom, and then there is always one person who's not in ratio in the classroom. And so that person is the site coordinator who's able to go in and support and coach the staff as well during the program time.
Great, thank you, Courtney. Pam, I'd like to know if you could tell me a little bit about, from the YMCA's perspective, employee retention. And I'm going to preface your comment by saying that Pam had some of her apprentices who are employees on our panel at the Teach for the Bay conference last week. And those employees were just so supportive of each other and kept mentioning the word family. I think they all said the word, we're like a family, we're like a family. Well, we're kind of like a family. She's like a family. And I think my bet is that that helps with retention. But Pam, maybe you can elaborate on that.
It does. The other thing that helps with retention is the cohort model that we're using for our apprenticeship. And because the apprenticeship focuses not only on new people, but on incumbent employees as well, it does create a retention model. The issue is we still have turnover. It's still high. There's still retention issues. I put in the chat, we're losing people now because of the COVID shot, the vaccine mandate. And some people are choosing not to get the vaccine. And some of them are long-term employees, which has been really a surprise that they haven't buckled under. Most people have been coerced by other people to do it because they don't want to lose their partners. It is like a family. I've been with the Y for almost 20 years in January. I can't believe I've never worked at a job that long. So it's kind of hard to believe. And there are people that we've seen grow up. The other thing too is when you hire parents in your program, they tend to stay, and nobody's there for the money. That's really clear. So if you're there for other reasons. And I think providing education, so while we don't do a reimbursement like Kidango, we have a little reimbursement that they can use for almost any educational expense or to pay for a workshop or a conference. We usually pay for most of those things separately, and then the apprenticeship pays for courses and books and training and computers and whatever they need to be successful in their classes. Mm-hmm. So that part is already covered as one less thing to worry about. But because it does feel like a family and we've raised each other's children, people do tend to stay to the extent that they can. Mm-hmm. There are people also that come in, and if you're paying 5 cents more across the street, they're out the door. Mm-hmm. And so, there are those issues. If there's a school district to be unnamed that pays like huge salaries, and if anybody gets a job there, they're gone from us. And they're still struggling for teachers and finding teachers. So, it's all a matter of whatever. I mean, we do pay benefits. We do have a good retirement plan, which is unusual for a nonprofit. I think that, salary, benefits, and then your team is what makes you stay. If you have a great center director and great staff that you work with, you don't want to leave them. You're committed to them as you are a family. And I think that that's something we do try and reinforce. It's YMCA also. It's, we have gyms that people go to and work out after work. So when they were open, and now they're slowly starting to open again. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Okay, so put in a gym and hire parents. Good retention strategies.
And pay well.
Pay well and create a family. Thank you, Pam. And Melissa, do you want to comment on retention and turnover?
Sure, and I'll take those notes to management. Maybe we could get some gyms. If you could see behind me, there's like a treadmill and stuff, like I'm in my house. Like my office is my gym too. It does keep me here. So yeah, retention is, I think it's an issue everywhere in this field. Like Pam was saying, you know, if somebody gets an offer for just a little bit more money down the street, they're going to go. Candidates are also being way more selective about how far they're willing to commute. That's been huge. Like me and Christina together have, I'd say probably over 50 centers here in Northern California that we support. And people don't want to drive more than like 10, 15 minutes. And that has become a bigger problem than it's ever been, which is okay when you have a lot of centers, but it's really hard when you have one center that's really struggling to get staff, but everyone wants to go to the other one because it's a little bit closer. So, I mean, that's a trouble just in general. We're trying to like redo our pay ranges, trying to offer like as good of benefits as we can, trying to offer hiring incentives. But it's a lot of competing with like Amazon and fast food, even in terms of like rate of pay for level of education that's required coming in the door entry level. It's just a real thing. And then, you know, candidates also can shop around. Like I've had in the last week alone in my area, I've had 2 candidates that, like when we get a candidate, which we don't get many, when we get one, we're reaching out immediately. We're getting them into a screen immediately. And then we're like scheduling them to interview with the center within 24 to 48 hours. And twice in the last week, I've had somebody that was scheduled like within that time frame come back and say, I took another job. I'm not going to the interview. Can you please cancel it? Like it's a real unique challenge in that way. So yeah, like we always say, we got to close the back door. Like we can hire all day, but you know, we need to figure out how to keep people long-term. And I think that the ability to grow with the company does help, you know, if you have like mentorship programs, things like that, or as they get more education, they can promote up internally to like teacher, lead teacher, instructional coach. A lot of our center directors started with us as teachers, you know, years ago. So there's that, but not everyone is focused on that. Some people are like, yeah, but do you know what my rent costs in this place is going to pay me 50 cents more? I got to go. And you can't really blame them for that because I live near San Jose. It's not cheap to live out here. So I feel the pain, but it's also a pain for staffing.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. Sabrina, I'm going to start you off with this final question, but based on our input so far, we've definitely heard some of the challenges around building an employer coalition related to rate of pay and the scarcity of employees. And in fact, many of you are in competition with each other for our students. So I think, Sabrina, maybe you could start off with what would be the benefit of having an employer group, a coalition that's regional, that goes throughout the Bay Area to support hiring and lift these issues? And what are some of the challenges?
I think this is the hardest one.
I know. You're kicking it off and you've got kids behind you, so just ask them.
Yeah, this is definitely the hardest one, but I think it's beneficial to do it. Of course, we need to kind of look at how we can, logistics wise, how we can make it happen. But I feel like if we come together, right, create something that work for the people, the workforce, and attract people to ECE field, I think we're all ready for this because we are faced with the same crisis. So we can come together, think together, right, brainstorm a solution that work for the field. I think that is, at least that's the first step, that we need to be on the same page. And yeah, instead of like a competition mode, coming to, and that's actually the concept of our STEP program, the program I was mentioning earlier. It's a shared service model. It's basically a shared kind of mindset. We don't, you know, we want to share the sub teacher with you, but we need to grow them together. I need your input, right? It's a shared responsibility to make it better, to grow, to train a teacher together. rather than everybody kind of have their own way. And I feel like that's kind of the mindset that we need to have first, the sharing mindset. But there is definitely challenge as well, like as you mentioned, we all kind of competing for the same people, right? The good teachers, we all want the good teachers. Yeah, so I feel like there's having a first step, like having the mindset being the first step, but we need to really probably have like additional meeting, talk about logistics, how we're gonna make it happen, what's the benefit, right, for the group. Yeah, that's really the real work lays. Yeah.
See, that was an easy question for you, Sabrina. I knew it.
It's the hardest one. It's really, yeah, I think it's something we all need to think about.
Yeah. Thank you. Terry, how about you? What would be the benefit of growing a coalition? And I want to throw out the word marketing. If we were to market this workforce in the region, maybe that would help bring more people in, shared marketing. But Terry, from your perspective, what would be a benefit of having a coalition and what would be a challenge?
I think a challenge is that it's not an immediate solution, and we're all looking for something right now. We have children and families to serve, and so that's where we're focused on making it through. How am I going to get through tomorrow with insufficient staff? But the benefit is that if we can get together, not just as employers, but also with our LPCs, our community colleges and the universities, our high schools and other community partners and our parents in our programs to build these pipelines, to build programs to meet a variety of different needs, to help educate and train future ECE educators. And when I say educators too, I think by providing that PR piece that you mentioned, the marketing piece, I think is huge right now. And that I think, especially with COVID, a lot of people are rethinking their careers in general. And especially in our field where the pay tends to be, the education demands are high, the pay is low, the work is physically and emotionally demanding. And a lot of people, after rethinking their priorities, or, they may love the field or be interested in it, but they have to do what's best for them. They have to pay the bills. They have to, maybe take a job where there's less risk of COVID. But I think if we can get together to do some marketing and some PR and to talk to people about the benefits of being in this field, because there's also people who just aren't entering the field at all, right? They're not signing up for classes. They're not. So we need to remarket, re-strategize, kind of, and sell ourselves. So selling someone on entering early education right now is a really hard sell. So I think if we can get together on that as well, I think that could be really helpful. But again, it's a long-term solution.
Yeah. We should have done all this 5 years ago, but what can I say? Everything happens all at once. So, I'd like to ask all of the next of you to just think about challenges, benefits, and include kind of your final wrap-up thoughts. So, Courtney, challenges and benefits? Especially for the after-school workforce?
Yeah, I think, sorry, can you repeat the question? Because I will go on a tangent and I want to make sure I'm concise.
No, you're always concise. So forming a coalition, and we're already in that extended learning coalition. I know Alea's on the call. So you're already committed to coalition building. I've heard you, I know we're in the same group. But what are the benefits of forming a coalition to kind of recruit staff? And then what are some challenges?
Yeah, and I would say strength in numbers is always a benefit. I think that when there are more bodies, more humans, more people moving forward in effort, there's a stronger impact, more likely to see change and movement making. I think some of the challenges, what you mentioned, Kathleen, earlier was it's almost survival of the fittest right now. And so there's a lot of competition for staff and between and amongst our different communities and our organizations and the work that we're doing. And so I think one of the challenges is moving beyond that and being in partnership with one another as opposed to seeing each other as competitors. I think in expanded learning and after school program, for me being in this space, I think the benefit is when there are people who aren't quite qualified to do ECE, I can take them because I don't have as stringent requirements in after school program. And in our work, we can support folks in going to school and getting the education so that we can pass them right back to you all if that's what their career goals are. So, you know, there's some mutually beneficial collaboration and partnership in that. And I also think just deepening partnerships, I think could be another benefit. I think that sometimes we, you know, have a phone call or have a meeting and call it a partnership, but the ongoing communication, the strategizing together, I think really building the depth and intentionality in this way could be huge for our field across the state.
Great, thank you. You also, I'm just throwing this out as a, you know, the chipmunk on the side, but most certainly we've got opportunities to blend part-time jobs too when we're in partnership. And so I'm thinking, you know, some of the part-time preschool jobs with some of the after-school jobs, some of the teacher assistant jobs, paraprofessional jobs with other jobs, summer jobs with school year jobs. So I think that is another benefit. And I'm not, you know, I'm just looking at that from a helicopter view, but most certainly providing more employment to people in one geographic area makes sense. Jackie, do you want to comment on benefits of being in a coalition? You're bringing a lot of programs to the table. So what do you think? Benefits and challenges?
Yeah, I think, you know, having this many people like focusing on early childhood education, we could all work together and advocate. I know for Kidango that we've provided raise and benefits to our employees just in the last months, but that's just not enough. Like we can't be, you know, comparing teachers and providing them with minimum wage because they could go to, like Melissa said, Amazon, where or other jobs where they don't have to be on site. So we could work together and advocate that these teachers do have to get paid more. We require so much out of them. We require them to continue their studies, renew their permits, and all that. So I think we can all work together and just really, you know, value them for what they do. I think having a coalition would also build candidate pipelines, working with different colleges, allowing all these employees to continue to grow, just supporting them. You know, they can get their associate's degree and take them somewhere else if they decide to. So it's just tons of support that we could offer them. So I think like working together, working with the community could really benefit everyone.
Great, thank you, Jackie. Pam, what about your view? You already have an apprenticeship program in line. What about furthering coalitions? What are the benefits that you think and challenges?
So I think, you know, the benefits have been really well articulated. And I think that, you know, the need to advocate for long-term funding for these programs rather than year-to-year funding would be a benefit in having a coalition to do this. I think that creation of replicable models so that people don't have to start from scratch. I feel like we've learned so much over the 5 years we've been doing it. And we are the only early educator program that's been continuously funded since, you know, for 6 years now. And so that's been really hard, but the need for ongoing funding for other programs, you know, for other programs to participate in this. And then the challenges, and I'm laughing to myself here, I go, you know, early childhood is like the community college system. You have 108 community colleges that offer early childhood classes and 108 different ways of doing it, even though you build into the same competencies. And the courses may be called, you know, child development here, human growth and development there. early childhood education there, but they're basically the same core classes, and you can, attach it to a CAP-8 label. But you each do it your own way, and you each compete with each other in your own way, and you each all do it perfectly well in your own way. And it's hard to give up control. And especially when you're training teachers, you want them trained the way that you want them trained for your program. And sometimes it's hard to give up that control or the money that may be attached to it to do a coalition, because people are going to say like, oh, the YMCA has all this money to do this apprenticeship. Well, we want that money to do our own apprenticeship. And while I would say, yeah, go ahead, try it, we've learned the hard way that it's not just taking the money and running. It's really well articulated and thought out, and we've made a lot of mistakes, and we've learned from those mistakes. And so we're happy to share them with anybody who wants to do this. But, each year we get better, each year we get stronger, and, hopefully the money will continue to follow the program, because we've trained close to 400 people already, and it's making a difference in people's lives. But, the challenges will always be there. And I think if we're willing to give up a little bit of our control, maybe even a little bit of our money for the benefit of the greater community and the whole, we'll all be better for it in the end. So
thank you, Pam. I think I took away also this continuous funding issue. Our sector does not get continuous funding in anything that has to do with workforce development. It's bits and pieces, dribbles and drabbles, 2 years here, 4 years here, 3 years here, 2 years here. So it's really hard to affect long-term change without continuous funding. And I think Kit put in the chat that that's a legislative advocacy issue, and that is also part of our charge, I think. So thank you, Pam. Melissa, do you have any final words? Melissa or Sabrina, let's start with Melissa. Any final words around the need for a coalition? You do a lot of hiring, challenges, needs for a coalition.
I don't think I have anything to add that hasn't been said. Everyone's, been very clear. I just think, the more we can market to people considering this career path, the better, regardless of where they end up job-wise. Like, yes, we're always going to be competitive. We all have quotas to meet. Like I have to get so many hires a month or whatever, but at the end of the day, we all need the same thing, and we all need to move forward in the same way. So, working together is going to help us accomplish that goal more so than trying to, steal talent from each other.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, good point. And hats off to Sabrina, who of all of us has the group of children running around behind her. So she had to relocate a few times. So she's on a panel and working. She's multitasking, which people in this field do. So thank you, Sabrina, for being here with your tiny little distractions.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, I think it's good. It reminds us why we're here.
I know, now it's almost like pickup time,
I get it.
It's running around a lot again. Yeah.
We all understand. That's why we're all here. So thank you, panelists. Thank you. And I do want to leave a few minutes. We've had chat questions around, yes, we can send the PowerPoint out. It'll also be posted on the BACCC website under the teacher pipeline. I post the recording and the PowerPoints. But do we have any questions? Just unmute yourself. We have a few minutes for our panelists or comments, or for Peter or Jennie. Peter or Jennie, if you have comments. I just want to thank our panelists for their candid comments and for being here and helping us.
Hi, Kathleen. It's Jennifer Briffa from Merritt College.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, everybody. I'm here in my role. My new role is just faculty. I'm not doing the chair job this time around due to health reasons, but I listened to all the questions and the responses, and as a community college person, I think the answers that particularly pertain to us were very useful. I took notes. But I think that also, I know I can speak for most community colleges. We really want to address the challenges of the employers and partnerships, and because we recognize it as such a hurdle, and at the same time, we are very much in touch with the challenges of our students. So like to give you a quick example, the CCC apply is just really not easy for our students at Merit, and I'm sure it's not in other colleges too. And so we're trying to find ways to help students with something as simple as how to apply to the colleges, right? And so we need that kind of input from our partners and our community agencies and stuff as to, are those some challenges that you could see the community college stepping up to address? I know it was mentioned about permit support and the, you know, the life scans and the finger, all that. And we do have a program at Merit that really helps with those issues. It's our Child Development Resource Center, and Alice Chin does all that work with the permit and stuff. And it's a very successful model. However, you know, we would like to hear more about how we can support the employers with some of these kind of challenges, like, you know, I know there was some discussion, sorry, I don't want to take a lot of time, but some discussion earlier about just navigating the systems, you know, between certificates and permits and degrees and all that, and the confusion with TK that you can just become a TK teacher.
Yeah.
So that's just my input there.
So getting the students more ready for employment, preparing them more to be ready for employment. I think.
Yeah, like we're working with a brand new career coach. And so now I'm gonna go right back to her right away after this and say, we need to develop some ECE specific interviewing workshops, resume workshops, portfolio workshops. We've done them in the past, and now we need to revisit and do those, because I think I heard that clearly that, you know, people not showing up for interviews or maybe whatever. And then also the English language learners is a huge issue that we didn't talk about too much today, but, you know, just supporting the ESOL employees too.
Thank you, Jennifer. I see Lori with her hands up.
Yeah, hello. This message, this question is for Pam. So you have an apprenticeship with the Cohort Model. Can you tell me through the years, like how many students did you have in each of your cohorts? I think you said there was 14 this year.
No, there's 35 this year that we're starting. And last year we had 42 in the cohort, so we had to kind of split the class sizes and the class groups, and we kind of did this analysis of every single person's transcript to see when they were ready for which class. And I'm sitting here with my 3-month-old granddaughter, because my daughter just went to get her other child from preschool. So if I look squirmy, it's because there's a little one here. But no, we have about 35 in our 12-unit cohort that's getting their associate teacher permits every year. And then we have about 105 in the AABA level. So we've got 14 in the AA level and about 80, whatever's left after that number. No.
And what is your apprenticeship? Is it teacher assistant, teacher, or what is it?
It's associate teacher, teacher AA, and teacher BA. So it's 3 different levels.
Okay, thank you so much.
Feel free to email me and I can send you the information on it, or go to the ECEPS website, ECEPTS. They're a sector intermediary and sponsor for early educator apprenticeships throughout the state.
Okay,
and that's
thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Pam. And Lori, say which college you're with.
Sorry, I'm with West Valley College.
Okay, with Santa Clara. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Lori. Fung Tran, you had your hand up?
Yes. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I have a question for the employee in the panel today regarding to step increase on wages. Like how often do you provide an increase to your employees in your program? So it's kind of helping us to understand your limitations as well, because if we go to register the ECE program as an apprenticeship, registered apprenticeship, the employers do require to provide a step increase. And so every 6 months or so until they graduate from the program. So I want to understand what's your, if you have a a step increase in place for current employees in your ECE programs.
And you're with Foothill, so Foothill, Santa Clara County, maybe
Yes.
Terry and Melissa could just answer that because you've got programs there.
Since we're a school district program, our step increases are pretty regimented, and so they're usually annual until you reach the top of your step category. There are also, we've been very fortunate in our district, there are usually annual COLAs of at least 3% or more. We also offer, when staff pursue units or seminars or classes, once they achieve a certain number of hours of professional development, that they can also increase their salary that way. Those are kind of the basics.
Great, thank you, Terry. How about you, Melissa? Because you have programs in Santa Clara.
Yeah, sorry, I had to go off camera for a second.
No worries.
So we have increases that coincide with like level of education. So like if you're coming in as an assistant teacher and then you become teacher qualified, like you have 6 units and you're 6 enrolled, at that point, there would be like an educational increase. If there's not a teacher position available, typically it comes in line with like a promotion to a teacher role. And then there's an increase at that point. And then we have like an annual review process. And then we actually just did an adjustment for all of the staff in my division to bring them up a bit, just like a market adjustment on top of like what we do, just to help us like stay competitive, and especially in the market that we're in right now, it's crazy competitive. So, but normally it just comes as, a review process, as many employers handle it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've got 1 minute. If we have any last questions, we've got 1 minute. I just want to honor everyone's time. Peter, maybe you can go to the next steps really quickly, and feel free to put anything in the chat. I can send you out the PowerPoint so you can contact some of these employers yourself. I do want to say again, a warm thank you to our panel for your amazing contribution. So Peter, do you want to elaborate on the funding that's coming out for HRTP? Peter, Jennie.
I'm in mute. Sorry, I forgot I was in mute. I was trying to be quiet.
He was talking to himself.
Blah, blah, blah. Sorry. In January, there's going to be an opening for new high road training partnership applications. And I think, again, it's been really good to have this broad discussion today. And part of what we're going to help with is try and synthesize what we've heard, and are going to be working with your group to help you figure out how do you wrestle this into an application. It's not, with so many of you and with so many issues you're dealing with, it's not going to be an easy task, but I think, again, it's a very promising task. So this is not a one-shot deal, and we'll probably be encountering us again. And Kathleen, I think you'll have to think about the next meeting, but it'll probably have to be once we kind of distill what has come of this discussion, and to get more specifications around the high road training partnership and other funding opportunities as well, as we talked about.
And I think Peter was very clear when he talked to me about the governor going in the direction of requiring high road training partnerships for a number of areas of future funding for workforce development. So we're trying to put the horse first and then the cart filled with money. We're trying to get ready, right? And the plumbers, the electricians, and the welders, they've got these. We don't, right? So, it's a gender equity issue.
It's a huge gender equity issue. Yeah.
So,
and I'll just say, in this round of the California Apprenticeship Initiative, I believe that there's 6 or 7 regionally entities that are putting in applications for that. And just think if we pick the title for this, banding together. What if you teamed up and all went in on an HRTP together?
Yeah.
Well, that would be very powerful.
Yeah. Well, Kit's here, or Kit was here for most of the meeting. She was here, and I think she's, she brings
I'm
that
still here,
regional.
Kathleen.
Okay, good.
Oh, okay.
I invited her for the kind of the regional perspective and having that lens. So I think, we're going to be thinking, and thank you again to our employers. Any final words? Yes, gender, racial equity issue, absolutely, Terry. And we bring it. Our sector brings it.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, Kathleen, if you want to debrief, reach out.
Okay.
That would be great
Good.
to have you.
Thank you. And Peter and Jenny, we can stay on for a bit. Everyone else, sign off. 3:33. Thank you so much. Thank you, employers.
Bye-bye.
Thank
That was
you.
great.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you,
me.
employer panel.
Yeah, it was very, yes.
Bye, everyone.
Kathy, can I just touch base with you really quick? This is
Sure.
Lori.
Sure.
So we've been trying back and forth about a possible meeting. Do you think it would be better if I tried to get my team together? I'm trying to do this, ASAP. What is your thought?
Yeah. Let's get your team and I can try to get Tracy. I think we
Okay,
can do it.
and so do you have some days next week that I can just put on our radar to think about?
Yeah. I think it was let me email you. I have your email in my priority box.
Okay,
I know
wonderful.
right where it is.
Okay.
But I think we should talk about it because the clock's ticking.
Right. So if you could give me some dates, maybe 2 or 3 different dates next week. Usually Thursdays and Fridays are usually pretty good. So.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Kathleen. Thank you for
you,
this
Lori.
wonderful time. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Well, that was great.
Yeah,
I was like,
you did a great job, Kathy, of moving
Yes.
through the
Yeah,
questions
boy.
and getting everyone to speak at length and
Yeah,
lots
and
of
some of them
good-
I didn't know. I mean, some of them
Mm.
are not from my area. They're like, I don't
you're like,
know Kidango at all.
No.
They're
No.
East Bay and South Bay.
it was a little bit like in the circus when the person wearing the black hat and the red coat is like, organizing everything in the 3-ring circus. That was well done.
Thank you. It is tough because I know they're competing with each other. And
Well, that I think that came through too a little bit. And yeah.
but
but
we have bigger problems.
In spite of that, it was, I think, a really good sharing. And I guess it's a huge question of like, okay, now what? So what do you do with all this?
Well, I think we need an HRTP. I did email Kit. That's why she hopped on. I think a regional HRTP is a solution. Our colleges are so overwhelmed right now with work, money, COVID, and this workforce, all the problems that I think we need to kind of look bigger at this. I think of all the people, I probably have the time or the space to put something together. I think I can get employer support pretty easily, at least some key employers.
And with not with all HRTPs, but I think with this one, if we were to help you kind of think about the budget and how you structure it, you really need to have someone doing whether it's you or someone else doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Because it's just too disparate and too many moving parts to count on people taking this up kind of as their hobby. It's got to be someone's job. Yeah.
Yeah, it won't work.
Beauty of potentially so many employers interested in this. I mean,
I think so.
really could be and so there's got to be that glue to hold it together.
Yeah,
I counted this group alone represents over 200 sites.
Wow.
Just the 6 people.
Wow.
They represent.
I know when what's
200 sites.
When that woman, the woman said, "Oh yeah, we have 60 centers." It's like, whoa,
Yeah. Even some of our smaller ones, Terry is with a school district, but she's got multiple sites. Ming has Headstart. They've got 5 locations in the city, I think. I mean, these are multiple, they impact multiple sites.
Mhm.
So all we need are a few because they represent a lot of workers.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to be everybody. It's
No.
it's a grouping of key employers, and in this case,
Right.
key educators.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because they're not a union. I mean, I think that's out.
Yeah, but some of them are
down-
unionized.
Which ones?
Well, the school district programs are all unionized.
Yeah,
Okay.
the public sector.
Yeah,
How
all the
about-
public sector. So Terry
I-
folks are all unionized. Our San Francisco Unified partners are all unionized. The County Office of Ed are all unionized. So
And which union is that?
all different, of course. You think there's any commonality?
The
No.
steel workers, right? It's
Well, some of them in the East Bay were painters and Teamsters.
right. I know.
yeah.
I was
So-
very impressed with Pam from the YMCA.
Yeah.
I mean, she's
She's a wealth of experience.
Yeah, she's-
and a
she's
model
like-
for very interesting.
Yeah,
in
she's
sharing
like,
that model with
you know,
others.
yeah.
Well, she's our only long-term apprenticeship. So we have to learn from each other. So but anyway, so I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. I mean, I want to be the first HRTP in this sector in this state.
Well, I mean, just to cut to the chase, I mean, in terms of our contract with CCSF,
Mhm.
this piece that we're finishing up when we write up a summary
Mhm.
of this kind of wraps up what the
Right.
initial scope. So I think we need to think about when the smoke clears and we talk about that,
Yeah,
it's like, where could we get the resources? I think we'd really love to stay involved.
yeah,
But we'll just have to figure out how to do that.
yeah. Well, so we have a little bit more money in this regional joint venture, and
Okay.
I have through June 30th. So
Okay,
I have to look at the budget, but I think we're under budget right now because I'm pretty frugal. So we do have a little bit more money in our regional joint venture. And I'm bringing Kit on because I keep looking at all the memos that are coming out this week, and it seems like we're getting more money than we thought. Did you see all those memos?
No.
Oh,
Oh, those funding allocation. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Bay Area. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
It-
true,
I
that's a
mean,
good point.
it seems like we have a little more than we thought. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what they're thinking. And then I read this thing about carryover. And so I just need kind of Kit to kind of think, is there something there to just even get us ready to apply in January? And then
Right.
do you have intermediaries that can help you once you apply? Can we build in some time for you guys?
It sounds like
Well-
Kit's on board. It's great that she was on this call. You know, she'll
Yeah.
be an ally in thinking, and it also is just great use of strong workforce regional joint venture funds to
Right.
seed what could be an HRTP at this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
stage,
that's-
right. It just
It
makes
could be
some
very
sense.
tangible
right.
Mhm.
and the
Makes
first in the
sense.
state.
Right.
So let's try to do that. I don't know how to do that, but you guys tell me. And I think with a lens toward, just a modest proposal, what we need. And if we have a little bit in the RJV, we could free up, I'm sure. But if it's more than that, we can ask Kit.
Yeah.
We've just become aware that there are resources at the state too, of like project folks at the state board who can kind of help. And I think part of the task will be to look at, if we want to use the HRTP as sort of the end zone for now,
Yeah.
is to kind of really look carefully at how that's structured and what questions they ask, and then kind of reverse engineer from that
Mhm.
what groupings of people, what information is needed, what timelines, kind of, I mean, it's a little bit like in the old days, you say teaching to the test, but it is planning for the grant, and we have to do that because it's not an easy lift. It's not like, okay, good, great, send it off. It is some work. And so, but I think the more that there's so many smart people in this space that you're in, that it's like how to marshal all that intelligence and knowledge. It could be done.
Yeah.
Peter, it makes me wonder if we could somehow find the way to facilitate that connection to the HRTP office, because there does seem to be this support available for nascent HRTPs that we're just becoming aware of. And I think to kind of bring this to their attention and see how they could be involved in supporting.
Yeah, and if they have technical assistance for a new sector to even apply. I mean, you're breaking ground.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, I think I need your help in that. With I don't know those resources that well, but
we will that specific thing. I think we're very interested in finding out about.
Okay.
Like as Jenny said, we just heard about this sort of obliquely saying, oh, so and so from the system office is helping us with, what we have to figure out. We went, oh, really? That's interesting. We didn't know that.
Yeah. So, we should find out more about that, Peter. And maybe Kathy, we can regroup. Peter and I will have to sort of think about the takeaways from this and sort of how to build on some of this conversation to shape toward what could be maybe going back to this group